Greatness always begins long before anyone sees it. It begins quietly, almost invisibly, in that small corner of your mind where belief takes its first breath. You don't need applause. You don't need approval. And you don't need permission. What you need, what you must have, is that private moment where you look at your life and say, there's more in me, there's something bigger waiting. That's the spark. That's where the journey begins. Most people never take that moment seriously. They dismiss it, they shrug it off. They think it's just a passing feeling, but if you pay attention, you'll notice that belief arrives with a certain energy. A quiet confidence, a whisper that says, you can do better, you can rise higher, you can build something extraordinary. And the moment you choose to believe that whisper, everything starts to change. Belief doesn't make you loud. It doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you aware of your capability, aware of your responsibility. Aware that your life is shaped by your choices, not your circumstances. When you carry belief, you walk differently. You think differently. You look at challenges and say, maybe this is not here to stop me. Maybe it's here to prepare me. That's the power of belief. It changes how you interpret the world. The same storm that discourages one person becomes a training ground for another. The only difference is belief. When you truly believe you're meant for something more, obstacles stop looking like endings and start looking like invitations. Invitations to grow, to stretch, to improve, to develop the kind of strength required to handle the greatness you're reaching for. You see, the world doesn't move for you until you move for yourself. Dreams don't start working until you do, but you'll never begin, you'll never try, you'll never take that first step unless belief lights the way. It doesn't have to be a big belief. It doesn't have to impress anyone. It just has to be real, real enough to get you started, real enough to pull you out of bed with purpose, real enough to make you look in the mirror and say, I'm not done yet. My story isn't finished. And here's the beautiful part, belief grows. It grows with every small effort, every small victory, every decision to keep going when it would have been easier to quit. It grows when you show up. It grows when you learn. It grows when you dare. Before long, that small spark becomes a steady flame, something strong enough to guide you, warm you, and remind you that you carry more potential than you ever imagined. So if you're waiting for greatness to arrive before you believe, you'll wait forever. Belief comes first. Always, it's the seed from which every achievement grows. Start with belief, nurture it daily, and watch how life begins to unfold in ways you never expected. Because greatness begins the moment you finally decide to believe, you rise to the level of your self-image. Not to the level of your wishes or your hopes or even your talents, but to the level of what you truly believe about yourself. And this is where many people get stuck, because they're trying to build a great life on top of a weak inner picture. They're trying to climb a tall mountain while carrying a small view of who they are, and life just doesn't work that way. If you see yourself as average, you'll live average. If you see yourself as incapable, you'll avoid challenges. If you see yourself as undeserving, you'll push away opportunities before they even arrive. But when you begin to raise your self-image even just a little, your entire world starts to shift. You behave differently, you speak differently, you make decisions with more courage, more certainty, more clarity. Your results slowly begin to match the new standard you've set on the inside. I've always believed that the most powerful work you'll ever do is the work you do on your own identity. Because the moment you change how you see yourself, you automatically change what you tolerate, what you attempt, and what you expect from life. Think about it. Why do some people keep sabotaging their progress? Why do they quit right when things start to get better? It's not because they're weak. It's because success has risen above the level they believe they deserve. And when your life grows faster than your identity, you pull yourself back down to what feels familiar. But imagine if you reverse that. Imagine raising your self-image first. Imagine believing deep down that you're deserving of a meaningful life, a strong body, a sharp mind, a prosperous future. Imagine what would happen if you carried yourself each day with the quiet certainty that you are capable, valuable, and built for more than just surviving. You wouldn't shrink in the face of challenge. You'd meet it, you'd welcome it, because your identity would say, "This is who I am now, and this is what I do." The moment your inner picture grows, you rise to meet it. That's the magic. When you believe you're worthy of progress, you pursue progress. When you believe you're worthy of discipline, you practice discipline. And when you believe you're worthy of greatness, you start showing up like someone who can actually achieve it. You talk differently, you think differently, and you carry a new energy that people around you can feel, even if you never say a word. So look closely at how you see yourself. Ask whether that image is holding you back or pulling you forward, because life will always match the picture in your mind, and if that picture is small, your results will stay small, no matter how big your dreams are. But if you decide today to expand it, to strengthen it, to redefine who you are and what you stand for, you'll be amazed at how high you can rise. Because you will never live a life greater than the one you first see within yourself. Belief creates the courage to begin. And beginning, just the simple act of starting, is often the biggest barrier standing between a person and the life they want. You'd be surprised how many people spend years waiting for certainty, waiting for confidence, waiting for the perfect moment to appear. But let me tell you something important. Life rarely hands out perfect moments. It hands out opportunities disguised as uncertainty, and belief is what gives you the courage to reach for them. The moment you start believing something is possible for you, not for someone else, but for you, you stop standing on the sidelines, you stop thinking maybe someday, and you start saying, why not today? Belief turns hesitation into motion. It turns fear into curiosity. It turns doubt into a willingness to try. And trying, my friend, is where transformation begins. You don't need a full plan to start. You don't need a guarantee. You need a little courage, just enough to take one step toward the thing that matters to you. See, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else is more important than your fear. And belief gives you that reason. Belief whispers, go on, this is worth it, you are worth it. Most people underestimate the power of just beginning. They think the start has to feel big, dramatic, impressive. But beginnings are usually quiet. Sometimes they're even clumsy. A small decision here, a small action there, but those small beginnings create a ripple. Suddenly, life starts responding. Doors open, ideas appear, people show up, and you realize none of that would have happened if you hadn't taken that first step. Courage grows the same way belief does, little by little. You take one brave step, and the next step becomes slightly easier. Before long, you're moving with a sense of direction, maybe even a bit of confidence, but it all traces back to that single decision. You chose to begin. And let me tell you, beginning is such a powerful act because it tells the world something important. It tells the world that you're serious about your life, that you're not waiting around to be chosen or discovered, that you're willing to invest in your own future even before the results show up, and the world, in its own interesting way, responds to that kind of commitment. Opportunities seem to find people who are already in motion. Maybe you're standing at the edge of something right now. Maybe there's a dream you've thought about, talked about, even wished for, but never begun. If so, this might be the moment that changes everything. Not because you suddenly have everything figured out, but because you finally believe in yourself enough to start. And that's the truth. The courage to begin doesn't come from knowing the path, it comes from believing you can walk it. Belief creates the courage to begin, and beginning well, that's where the real miracle starts. You know, it's amazing how many people have wonderful dreams, but never take the first step toward them. Not because they don't want the dream, but because they're waiting for something, waiting for confidence, waiting for certainty, waiting for the fear to disappear. But fear doesn't step aside just because you want to move forward. No, fear steps aside when you believe enough to move anyway. You don't begin when everything is clear. You begin when something inside you says, I can't stay where I am. That's belief talking. That's the inner voice that refuses to let your potential go unused. And when you choose to listen to that voice, even for a moment, you feel a spark of courage, small, maybe, but enough to get you started. You see, courage doesn't arrive first. Belief arrives first. Just a simple belief that maybe, just maybe, you're capable of more than you've shown. And the moment that belief settles in, it gives you the strength to do the thing you've been hesitant to do. Take that first step. It may be shaky, uncertain, imperfect, but it's a step. And that single step begins to reshape everything. Most people think courage is loud. They think it's dramatic, bold, fearless, but real courage is quiet. It's internal. It's that small decision you make when no one's watching. I'm going to try. That's enough. That's the seed, and belief is the soil that seed grows in. Because when you believe something is possible, you stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if this works? Your mind begins to shift, your heart begins to open, and suddenly the risks don't look as threatening anymore. They look necessary, they look meaningful, they look like part of the journey, not a barrier to it. And here's what's interesting. Once you begin, even in the smallest way, life starts to respond. New ideas show up. New connections appear. Encouragement comes from places you didn't expect. And you realize something powerful. You were never waiting on life. Life was waiting on you, waiting for you to start, waiting for you to show just a little bit of faith in the path ahead. The truth is, the beginning is never perfect. It's rarely comfortable, but it's always important. It tells the world, and more importantly, it tells you that you're serious about your future, that you're willing to bet on yourself, and once you make that decision, the fear you started with begins to lose its power. It doesn't disappear, but it gets quieter because your belief gets louder. So if there's something calling you, something you know deep down you're meant to pursue, don't wait for the courage to magically arrive. Start with belief. Start with the smallest step you can manage. Start even if your voice shakes, because courage doesn't lead you to the beginning. Belief does. Belief builds discipline, and discipline is one of the finest gifts you can give yourself. You see, when you truly believe your future is worth something, worth time, worth effort, worth sacrifice, discipline stops feeling like a burden. Instead, it becomes a quiet kind of joy, the joy of knowing you're investing in the person you're becoming. And that shift, that emotional shift, changes everything. Most people think discipline is about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. But that's only half the story. Real discipline grows from belief, from the conviction that what you want tomorrow matters more than the comfort you're tempted by today. When you believe deeply in the life you want to live, discipline becomes less about pushing and more about choosing. Choosing your growth, choosing your future, choosing your best self over your easy self. You wake up differently when you believe in where you're going. You plan your day with intention. You stop wasting time on things that steal your energy. Discipline becomes a natural extension of your vision, not a punishment. It becomes the bridge between who you are and who you know you can be. And here's the beautiful part. The moment you act with discipline, even in a small way, you build trust with yourself. You prove through your actions that your belief is real, and that trust becomes momentum. Once you string together a few days of effort, a few consistent steps, something inside you begins to steady. You feel stronger, you feel grounded, you feel capable, and that feeling becomes its own kind of fuel. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's not about living like a machine or never making a mistake. No, discipline is about direction. It's about returning to your path again and again because you believe the destination is worth it. It's about deciding that your purpose deserves your effort even on the days you don't feel like giving it. And you will have those days, days when you're tired, days when you're discouraged, days when progress feels invisible. But discipline, real discipline, doesn't vanish on those days. It anchors you. It reminds you why you began. It whispers, keep going. Just do a little today. Don't break the chain. When belief fuels discipline, discipline becomes sustainable. It becomes something you can carry for years, even decades, because it's aligned with your identity, not forced on you out of guilt or pressure. You don't discipline yourself because someone expects it. You do it because you expect more from your life, because you can see the person you're capable of becoming, and you're willing to pay the price to meet them. And that's the truth. Belief may light the path, but discipline is what walks it. Belief attracts opportunities. And this is one of the most fascinating truths about life. When you carry belief inside you, real belief, not the kind you talk about, but the kind you live, something in your presence changes. People can feel it. They can sense it before you even open your mouth. And it's that shift, that quiet confidence, that begins to draw new possibilities your way. When you believe in yourself, you walk differently, you stand a little taller, you speak with more clarity. Not arrogance, just assurance. And assurance is magnetic. It pulls things toward you. It pulls people toward you. It pulls conversations, connections, and chances you never expected. You've probably seen it before. Two people with the same talent, the same experience, the same knowledge, yet one of them gets opportunities the other never even hears about. Why? Because belief broadcasts a signal and opportunities are drawn to that signal. Belief makes you more aware too. You begin to see possibilities that were invisible before. It's like someone cleaned the windows of your mind. Suddenly, you notice the door to your future standing slightly open. You notice the chance to learn something new. You notice the moment where you could volunteer, raise your hand, speak up, or take a step forward. Those chances were always there. You just couldn't see them until belief sharpened your vision. And here's something important. Opportunities aren't always wrapped in shiny paper. Sometimes they show up disguised as problems. Sometimes they look like extra work. Sometimes they even feel like setbacks. But when you believe in your path, you begin to ask a different question. Instead of, why is this happening to me? You ask, what's this offering me? And that single shift in perspective allows you to pull value out of situations that would discourage others. Belief also affects how others see you. People naturally invest in those who invest in themselves. They trust someone who walks with purpose. They open doors for someone who shows commitment. When you believe in your own potential, others start believing in it too. And suddenly, life becomes full of little collaborations, small opportunities, unexpected allies who want to help you move forward. And remember, opportunities don't always show up with fireworks. Sometimes it's a conversation, a suggestion, a new idea, a moment of intuition. Sometimes it's simply being in the right place because your belief pushed you to get out of bed, show up, and be present. That's how opportunity works. It finds the person who's in motion, the person who's prepared, the person who's ready. So keep your belief alive, carry it with you, let it shape the way you show up in the world, and watch how the world begins responding in ways you never imagined. Because opportunities don't find the most talented person, they find the person who believes. Belief turns setbacks into lessons, and this is where many people miss the point. They see a failure and they see an ending. They see a mistake and they see a reason to quit. But the truth is, every setback is simply information in disguise. Every challenge, every disappointment, every obstacle is giving you a message if you're willing to listen. And that message is not, you are weak. It's, here is what you need to grow. Here is what you need to learn to become the person capable of the life you want. You see, setbacks are part of the journey. They are not detours. They are part of the path itself. And belief gives you the perspective to see them this way. When you believe in yourself, you stop seeing failure as final. You stop seeing difficulty as defeat. You begin to see each struggle as a stepping stone, a building block in your personal development. You start asking, what is this teaching me? Rather than crying, why is this happening to me? It takes courage to do this. It takes courage to face your mistakes, to acknowledge them, to analyze them honestly, and then to decide, I will do better next time. But that courage is born from belief, the belief that you are capable, the belief that your life is worth the effort, the belief that even the hard days are adding up to something meaningful. Without belief, setbacks feel like walls. With belief, they become lessons that lift you higher. And here's something powerful. People who grow through setbacks don't just survive, they thrive. They develop resilience, they develop wisdom, they develop patience, they develop the kind of inner strength that can't be taught in a classroom or learned from a book. That strength comes from living, from falling, and from rising again with belief as your guide. Think about the moments in your own life where you struggled. Maybe you didn't get that job, didn't reach that goal, or were let down by someone you trusted. Now imagine how different those moments would have felt if you had looked at them as opportunities to learn instead of as reasons to quit. Every setback has a gift. It teaches you about your limits, your priorities, your courage, and your character. But you have to believe the gift is there before you can see it. Belief also keeps you moving forward when the pain feels heavy. It whispers in your ear, this is part of your story, keep going. It reminds you that your journey isn't defined by a single event, but by the cumulative effort of every decision you make afterward. It keeps you focused on growth instead of regret, on solutions instead of excuses. So when life knocks you down, remember this, the setback itself is not the enemy. The enemy is allowing it to stop you, and the weapon you have against that enemy is belief. Because when you believe, failure becomes your teacher, and every lesson brings you closer to greatness.